I'm Bradley Schneller, owner of Stacked Coaching, a personalized nutrition and fitness coaching company, and this is probably the best fitness and nutrition podcast. On today's episode, we're talking with former Tulane Green Wave offensive tackle Jimmy Ordineaux from the 1999 undefeated Green Wave team. We're discussing his struggles with alcohol, overcoming that, getting it out of his life, as well as his personalized fitness evolution and journey from collegiate offensive tackle to super lawyer who now looks good, feels good, and is able to have more time playing football with his kid. If you want to check us out on Instagram, it's at Stacked Coaching. Enjoy the show. What's up, everybody? This is probably the best fitness and nutrition podcast. I always forget the title here, but I have with us one of our personalized programming clients, Jimmy Ordineaux. And I really like Jimmy's story because he used to be a collegiate football player. Now he's living the dream and exercising for fun now. Well, for health. So,
yeah, a little bit of both.
Yeah,
sure.
a little bit of both. So, Jimmy, give me your background. You played for Tulane. Mm-hmm. What position?
I was offensive tackle.
Offensive tackle.
Mm-hmm.
You're 6'5"?
6'6".
6'6". Why didn't you go pro?
I wasn't a very good offensive tackle. I was an offensive tackle.
Did you start?
No, I was a 2-year letterman, so I played in every game my junior, senior year, but I did not start for the undefeated Tulane Green Wave of 1998.
Oh, you played on that team.
I did, yeah.
I watched that team.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Y'all went to the Liberty Bowl, played Memphis?
We played BYU.
BYU, that's right, in Memphis.
In Memphis.
And smashed them.
We did, yeah.
That was Sean King's team, right?
It was. I like to think of it as Jimmy Ordineaux's team, and Sean was an important role, but yeah, no, it was Sean King's team for sure.
From a football standpoint, like, because I can't recall, I felt like that year, that was your boy who went to West Virginia. What's his name? Rich Rod.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was his team.
He was our offensive coordinator.
Offensive coordinator. Who was the coach?
Tommy Bowden was
Tommy Bowden.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who went to Clemson, and then nothing happened.
Yeah, it was a big bone of contention when that happened. Coach Bowden gets the Clemson job. We all kind of understood that Winnebago on Wednesdays is what he described. There's a few programs that people literally drive their Winnebagos up, LSU being one of them, on Wednesday to tailgate for a Saturday game. He's Florida State's legendary coach's son. That was always something that he was going to pursue. We thought Coach Rodriguez should get the job. Tulane decided to go in a different direction.
Chris Selfo, right?
Yeah, Chris Selfo. And
disaster.
So he sort of. The only game I played for Coach Selfo was in that bowl game, but luckily Coach Rodriguez and the rest of the staff stuck around, and they coached us through the bowl game. We still had some success. I'm carrying him off the field in the Times Pick in like the New Year's Day edition after we completed the perfect season. So we loved Coach Rodriguez. It didn't start that way. Loved the guy, but. He ended up going with Coach Bowden and eventually became the head coach at West Virginia, then Michigan, Arizona.
Did you feel like – what did y'all end up finishing that year in the polls? Seventh. How many teams above you did you feel like you could beat that year?
We felt like we could beat them all. We certainly felt – if you recall, Tennessee won it that year.
Yeah.
Tennessee beat a pretty flawed Florida State team in the finals because whoever was the starter for Florida State that year had gotten hurt. They had like a second or third string quarterback playing. They weren't that good. Their defense was incredible. Kept the bowl game close with Tennessee, but not a great team. So we definitely thought we should have at least had our shot against them.
Yeah.
Cincinnati's now going to get that shot 23 years later.
They're about to get smashed.
They'll probably get smashed by Alabama, but at least you get a shot, right? But the thing that was different with us too is that we were doing something on offense.
Well, your offense, no one was doing it in college. Yeah, right. You could keep you in any game.
Yeah, and then you saw, for the next 20 years, people have evolved this fast-paced, no-huddle thing. I mean, we were doing that. Drew Brees was doing it at Purdue. There was only a couple teams that were playing with the pace we played with, and we did things a little different.
You had the Rummel running back, right?
We had
Michael Burks.
No. We had Tony Payton. Tony Converse from EJ.
Okay.
And Jamaican Dartez from Cecilia.
Okay.
Were our two lead backs. Yeah.
Did you feel like, because I felt like that season kind of came out of nowhere. Could you see it being built?
We felt it was being built. I mean, part of we're here to talk about fitness. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the things that changed dramatically when Coach Bowden and those guys arrived was just our conditioning level. I mean, they wanted to play this fast-paced offense, and they sort of pushed us to the brink in terms of what our bodies could do.
Well, speaking of, what did it look like before he came, and then what changed? What did y'all start doing?
Specifically with respect to the offensive line, Coach Iaccio was our strength coach. I feel like he's a PhD in exercise science now, and sort of always has been on that side of things real advanced. But specifically with the offensive line, if you looked at our 1996 offensive line, 300 across the board, huge guys, 6'5", 310, 320.
Yeah.
They looked the part of the Michigan line or whatever you see now. They're just big, strong, physical guys. And we were going to do something where we had to be in shape. We had to be able to run plays in 10 seconds and 12 seconds and so forth. And so, I mean, the amount of just running that came in with those guys was a big change. And then, I mean, there was an attitudinal change that was probably more important in terms of, playing through the edge of the whistle and being really tough guys and more mentally tough than the opponent and so forth. I mean, those guys, and you bought in. I mean, you were desperate. You haven't won at the school in years. You're tired of losing, and then Bobby Bowden's son shows up and says, look, I might run half of you guys off through this process, but if you stick around, we're going to win.
I love it.
And we bought in, so it was great.
That's amazing. What you've been around the team a lot because you were a radio announcer for time being, right?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Did you have an idea, or have you been a witness to how maybe strength and conditioning has changed from before Tommy Bowden to while you were on the team and now, like, what they're currently doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the knowledge curve is so much more advanced now. And look, I'm not watching these guys work out now. I can just see from social media sort of the lifts that they're doing and what they're focusing on. I mean, there's GPS. There's all these things that they can now use to track performance that we didn't have. But when we were there, it was the biggest change from the prior staff to Bowden was mostly on the conditioning front. The weight training front was pretty similar. And I was telling Mesa this. I'm sure we'll talk about her. But I was telling her, how much do you bench? How much do you squat? How much do you power clean? And basically everything else you did around that was just to help those lifts. I mean, you did a bunch of triceps and curls and things like that. But, I mean, those core lifts were at the center of everything. As they've gone on in time, I think it's a far more nuanced approach. And that would have been the same for all positions for the most part. And I think now you see a much more nuanced approach in terms of what are the most important movements and characteristics of a player for each position that they play and the type of athlete that they might be. And I think that I venture to say most college programs, excuse me, you look at the entire roster, most of those guys probably have a pretty individualized plan.
Right.
For okay, this is how we're going to maximize your performance. And
also while probably trying to prevent injury.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, which, I mean, I don't know how much of a focus that was back then.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, I think there's a much better understanding of how soft tissue injuries occur.
Yeah.
And so Tulane specifically, they monitor the receivers, for instance, how much they're running in practice. And if a guy has gotten over a certain threshold throughout the course of a preseason camp, they will dial him back. They'll take him out for a day in order to get him the proper rest and not pull a hamstring and then you lose him for 3 weeks or whatever.
So that's super interesting that you say that, okay? And it just kind of like, I connected some dots here that I didn't really consider before. But if they're doing that at Tulane with Division I, high-end athletes, right? And what we're talking about is how too much volume in training can lead to injury. And then you see like everyday people just pushing the limits, people that have 8 to 5 jobs and then families and stress, and they come in the gym and they're just pushing, and they're not really allowing proper recovery and rest. And what that's doing to them over time, venture to say that their workouts are more harmful than good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it intuitively makes perfect sense. And I've experienced a little bit of that in my journey here. I mean, I started doing the classes, and I think the classes are awesome because they're really varied and so forth. But I mean, if I look at my tracker, man, I burned 1,000 calories today. and I might do that 3 times a week or whatever. Yeah. And yet, since I've actually probably dialed back the intensity, meaning, I'm not seeing that sort of caloric burn in a 1 hour span, I'm actually seeing far more gains in terms of strength. My knee health, which has been a problem for me, has gotten better.
And you've lost weight.
Better. Yeah, and I've lost weight. That helps.
Well, but part of that is, like, I'm just going to throw this out there. One of the things that drives me nuts, Jimmy, is on Instagram, people like take a screenshot of their watch and it's like, look how many calories I burned. Right. And I'm like, you look the same as you did 6 months ago and you post this every day, because it's not about your caloric burn in your workout. It's about your nutrition. So when we talk about fitness is for wellness, and like we talk about your knee, how you feel, how you perform in everyday life. That's what fitness is about. And as soon as you kind of let go of the whole calorie thing, you saw a lot of progress.
Sure, absolutely.
Right? Mm-hmm. It's so interesting. So what made you, well, let's talk about this. So you're out of Tulane, you're an offensive lineman. What'd you play at? What was your playing weight?
I played at 295 to 305. My last 2 years, that was...
What was the journey like for you, being that big of a dude and now going from collegiate athletics to nothing?
Right. And it pretty much was nothing. I mean, for a long period of time, I might play basketball once a week or something like that. I did that for some period of time, but pretty low intensity. And, our capacity as humans to deceive ourselves is pretty strong.
Yeah.
And a lot of people's cases, unfortunately, they have self-worth issues. In other words, they tell themselves they're not good enough, or the world's out to get them. I had the opposite problem. I mean, I look at some of the pictures of myself from like 2010, 12, or whatever. I mean, I'm a blob walking around, but I remember being in my own head at that time. I was like, nah, you don't look bad, man.
I'm king shit.
Yeah, you're still handsome. You're successful in your job. You got a nice family and all this other stuff. And so, in my mind, I didn't look so bad. And then I look back at it, I was like, oh, I was in pretty poor shape, but I was able to sort of deceive myself for a long period of time that this wasn't something that I needed.
Yeah.
That being looking good and purely just from the aesthetics of it was a nice thing to have, but it wasn't necessary. It wasn't essential to my character and so forth. And
which all those things are true.
Yeah, but ignoring that beyond the way you look, the way you feel, the way your heart's operating, all these things are so important and so essential to a fully functioning life and a life filled with gratitude and sort of some more humility than I had before. It's all part of a journey for me.
Yeah, I really like how you said that, but it is like whole health. And I mean, part of that is when I talk to my nutrition clients, I always ask them their goal, and they will kind of casually throw in, well, I want to look good, but I want to feel good too. And I'm like, hey, it's okay if you want to look good. Like right. That's okay, because looking good can make you feel good. So if you feel you look good, it can present confidence, and it's like faking it till you make it, right?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And that can be put forth into all the other entities in your life. So if you feel like you look good, you're more confident in your job. Maybe you're more confident in your workouts, right? You're more confident as you walk around the grocery store, shoulders back, upright posture, all those things. But it also can play into a total whole health thing. So I get it. Like there's a lot of things that go into it. And looking good can be a byproduct of plenty of the other things that we're trying to accomplish. So
Sure.
So, all right. So when did you decide, like, shit, it's time to work out again?
Well, let's see. So we're coming on 2 years now where I'd stopped drinking. I sort of perceived in my life some things were off, and for me it wasn't some sort of 12-step program or anything like that. I just kind of looked at it and said, this has been an obstacle to more important things in my life. I want a more healthy relationship with my wife. I want to not be hypocritical dealing with my kids. I want to be fully functional when I'm at job. I got all these time demands outside of work on my schedule. So when I'm in there, I need to be full functioning, hardcore. I got to be my full self. And so that was an obstacle. And I think it was like Jason Isbell. I heard an interview he did. He was an alcoholic and recovering and all that. And he says, look, it's not the end of the journey, but it's sort of, you get rid of that obstacle so you can work on all the other things you need to work on.
Yeah.
And you really start working on you with that obstacle gone. So for me, that was part of the journey. And so I started doing that work. That was out of my life, and I'm sort of assessing where I stood. And I was like, COVID's now, so that was December of 2019. COVID's becoming a thing. I'm seeing that COVID's hitting, overweight people and my age group and so forth. It's like, well, what about my health? Like, seriously, like in my mind, I'm some kind of athlete, but I'm not.
Right.
Like, I can't do anything. Like, I'll get tired walking up a flight of stairs at this point. And so I joined the gym in I think it was July of 2020, and just kind of got hooked. I was told for years that you're going to, Jimmy, you got to go do CrossFit. This guy, quick story, this guy who was on the Tulane team when I was doing the radio stuff.
Yeah.
He was doing CrossFit with someone, and he says, with a best friend of mine, and my friend says, hey, Oscar says you got to come out and do CrossFit because it's going to be like you were at practice again. Tell Jimmy he's going to love it. And I said, telling me it's going to be like I'm at practice again is not much of an incentive for me. I hated practice.
Right.
But some people are just made for it. So I had a lot of hesitation about it, and you hear all the stuff about it and all the taboo out there. And I mean, obviously,
some of it's true,
and some of it is absolutely true. But here there's always been sort of a mindfulness to injury and injury prevention and sort of varied routines and developing all muscles and less about getting everybody ready for the CrossFit game.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm interested in your switch from drinking to non-drinking. Like, it felt like you were pretty self-aware and like you just cut it off one day. Is that what happened?
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot leading up to it, but yeah, it was a one day. Like, it was. I went to a firm Christmas party, and I was like, my wife had stopped a few months before. She had stopped before and then started again and stopped before, and I was like, I'm just tired of dealing with it. I'm tired of dealing with the sort of the anxiety the next day from having to.
Right.
I was the type of drinker that I could go a month without drinking alcohol, but if I got into it, You're
going hardcore, yeah.
And there really wasn't much of a filter. And so this Naked Mind as a program, there's a lady who sort of lays it out. It's like, look, I'm not telling you not to drink, or what to do. Here's the science of it, right? And so I read what she had to say about, you sort of, you trigger the hormones the first drink, and then you start chasing it the rest of the night. Then it's a little bit less release each time. And I was like, that's me. That's me to see. That's exactly what I'm doing. And I'm never going to reach what I'm chasing because scientifically, chemically, my body is not going to produce that initial rush again throughout the course of the night. So that chase is kind of a futile thing, and yet I'm letting those moments sort of interfere with all these other important things in my life. So is it worth it? And that was sort of an evaluation.
How hard was it for you, like here in New Orleans, making that switch? Because I mean, I find we come across this a lot in Stacked, like with our nutrition coaching, and we can 100% help people lose weight while they drink daily. Mm-hmm. Like it's possible. It's all about accounting for those calories and stuff like that. There comes a point though when someone's goal requires a little bit extra effort, and that extra effort in terms of body recomposition means you need to drink a lot less.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, minimize those days, minimize those alcoholic beverages, because what we need you to do is actually eat food instead of drinking those calories. We need you to eat those calories, specifically in carbs, to supplement your protein and help build muscle, right, for the body recomposition. And it's initially really hard for people, really, really hard. And we've spent a lot of time here looking at that, and I think it's because for us, specifically in New Orleans, it's very cultural.
Right. Well, that's exactly it. In my experience, at least, it's the social aspects of drinking that you first of all, you do miss when you stop to a certain extent, but it comes down to the mindset and understanding what your priorities are, and then it helps to order it a little bit.
Right.
But to me, alcohol is physically addictive for very few people. It's an issue of it's sort of everything that comes with it. And in New Orleans, alcohol is centered in so much of what we do. And so, my concerns was, well, what about, I guess the Super Bowl and Mardi Gras and stuff were coming up. It's like, what I'm going to do? Can I hang out with the same people? Can I do?
Right.
And what I actually found was that, with some exception, almost everyone in my friend group, like, they're totally cool with it. They were actually supportive the choice. Like, look, if you decided to make that choice for yourself, man, who am I to tell you not to? But I was so worried about being left out and not invited to certain things. And I haven't really found that to be the case. I'm sure there are some things here and there where someone's, well, we're not going to invite Jimmy this one because we're all going to be getting after it or whatever. But like, I don't think I've ever shown up. I've never preached to people that they should stop or anything like that. I still kind of able to bust, you know what, and bust chops and so forth.
And have fun.
So
cut loose, right.
So, they don't see a change to our social dynamic, and so the friends are still there and everything else. So it was probably a bit overblown, but that was certainly something before I stopped I was most concerned about.
Yeah, I mean, we did an entire podcast on women and wine culture, about how, like, it's very much like you see all these drinks about moms and, drinking wine or, every day. And we see it a lot. But one of the things that it is from, that's cultural, right? As in, like, this movement across the last 10 years in the country. But also it becomes muscle memory and a habit.
It does.
Right? So, like, you get home, you clean up, you get the kids whatever they need for dinner or get them situated. You have dinner, and then you pour that first glass of wine, and then that second glass of wine. And then that just becomes what you do on a daily basis, right? Like, and so now it's muscle memory, it's habit, and you have to break that. You have to do a pattern interrupt. And it could be something simply as, taking your wine glass and putting in some, like, soda water in it, right? Or like a Waterloo or unsweetened tea or something that might have a color, or a decaf coffee or something like that in a really nice glass to where you're still having the experience. It's just not the alcohol, so that you can break that pattern. Was there anything tangible you did similar to those actions along the way to help, like, kill the pattern for you?
Sure. And I'll give you a couple quick examples. I mean, we had a beach trip not long after we stopped, and, like, so we went ahead and we packed the ice chest full of Waterloo, or I guess it was LaCroix or whatever it was. But, you got your ice chest, you got, it's sort of everything you would be accustomed to having at the beach. You got the music speaker, got the chairs. Mm-hmm. And instead of drinking beer the whole time, I'm drinking soda water. Right. And honestly, it was a more enjoyable experience because I actually remembered it all, and actually all the little cute things my kids did, But I think in what you're describing was, I think in some ways more pernicious issue is when you have that daily habit. I didn't really have
you didn't have that. Yours was more of a social event thing. Exactly.
And so it was always about chasing the dragon or whatever when I got going. But, like, for the people that actually have that daily routine, it is harder because it's just part of what you do. And, like, now my daily habit is I'm going to be in this place working out. And I'm not saying put down a wine glass, pick up the barbell necessarily as a 1-for-1, but you do find it actually doesn't take your brain as long as you would think to develop new habits. I know there's studies on that and so forth, but 1 week, 2 weeks, or whatever, you start getting into an interruption of that prior pattern and replacing it with new patterns, and then you'll see the benefits of it. I mean, how many times does that pop the nightly glass of wine? I know I have a lot of friends.
I want to say it's 60 days. If you can make it 60 days, like, it's with you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I took out clients last week for Saints game. You and I talked that day. I was at the famous door on Bourbon Street, of all places. Their choice, and so we're down there, and it's 11 of them. I mean, I'm drinking soda water the whole time. I'm still getting offered.
Right.
They want to buy the drinks back from me. Nobody notices. We have so much anxiety about people watching everything we do and don't do and so forth. And you know what? Everybody's all consumed with their own stuff.
Yeah. No one cares.
No one cares that you're not drinking, and they don't notice that you're not drinking.
Yeah.
And so that was part of it, but that's so clearly my pattern changed. So to that point, at no point in that entire 10 hours, we went to Saints game, everything else. At no point it was like, ooh, I really want a beer now, or I want a whiskey or whatever.
Right.
Just didn't have it. Whereas, if I was 1 foot in, 1 foot out, I would absolutely have had that temptation. So for me, that was sort of a sign of that progress. Now it's almost 2 years out. I feel like I'm over that hurdle.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of, and it was, I didn't drink every night. I drank often though, and I looked forward, like I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get drunk at that, right? Like I would have that. I mean, I wasn't addicted. I didn't drink all the time, but I definitely made events out of drinking alcohol, you know? And
Tailgating for me, man.
Yeah, tailgating. Like I'd be like, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to like crack that first beer at 7:30 a.m. And at this time I'm going to switch to whiskey and it's just going to be all day drinking, right? And like, look how much of a badass I am. What am I telling myself? Like, this is so silly, you know?
Well, I'll give you a perfect example from the tailgating. So, you know, I got with Shane in some ways, my son, and he's 12 now, you know, we've been tailgating for years with the Tulane games. And you know, there were absolutely times where he wants to throw the football, but I want to continue to sit back, relax, and drink a beer. I'm like, Henry, we'll throw in a little bit. Yeah, well, now the tailgate involves more throwing the football.
Yeah.
But I'm still going out. I'm still having a good time. I'm actually spending time with this kid who's going to be a teenager soon and probably want nothing to do with me. And I'm not pushing that off anymore. I'm fully engaged in that moment with him.
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, so one of the things that really changed me is I decided that the goal that I wanted meant more to me than getting drunk, right? Or drinking a glass of wine here or 2 goals. And I made some rules in my head around that. I often do those types of things, like create these parameters for myself or as my therapist would like to say, these machinations that I do. But one of those, you know, being like I will only drink it if it's really good, you know, like that type of thing. But when I decided that like being shredded was more important than drinking alcohol, it was easy. It was a switch.
Yeah.
It just, that became more important, you know? And so I was like, man, I can pass this off. Like, you know, when you're having that hangover, you know, tomorrow I'm going to be like ripping my shirt off walking down the street.
Right.
Like I always have that. I kid, but seriously, that's what I told myself. And it worked, you know? So that was a tangent, but I liked it. People need to hear that stuff. Because that is like, I think one of the biggest hurdles for people in terms of their health and fitness is the amount of alcohol consumed. So
yeah, and it's everywhere.
Yeah, and it's everywhere. Yeah. So for you, you get into the gym and big change, like you're seeing progress, right? I know I brought it up to you about doing some personalized programming, but for you, like what was the experience in the gym with the limitations you had from football and having to modify everything? I mean, you did it and you liked it, but eventually it becomes frustrating, I imagine.
Sure. Yeah, and so the story, you know, I'm doing the classes and sort of being really, truly active for the first time consistently did activate for me underlying arthritis from those days, right?
Yeah.
I mean, my wear and tear on my knees, because I wasn't physical enough in the intervening time frame, I didn't really experience many problems with it. But those problems started to crop up. And so acutely I had some torn meniscus. I had a torn meniscus in left knee. It got bad enough that I went and had surgery. Complication of surgery, I had a staph infection. I get a strep infection in my knee. I was knocked out for 3 weeks. Bedridden, lost a ton of weight, but I also lost 13 to 15 pounds of muscle mass in that time frame. And so I was excited and anxious to get back in the gym. I get back in the gym and I'm working, but I'm really recognizing that, okay, there's some long-term sort of knee things that there's got to be a better way than sort of just the one-size-fits-all group programming.
Yeah.
And so I think I approached you about, hey, you know, is there a physical therapist or somebody that you could recommend? Maybe I could consult with about this. It's like, well, I'm funny you should ask. While I'm not a physical therapist,
like we're doing this program,
personalized coaching, and so that immediately made sense to me because there's going to be some thought put into how can I maximize my muscle development, which I really like. I'm really enjoying. I'm really loving feeling strong. You walk around feeling strong is a great feeling.
It is a great feeling.
And I love that, but I'm really worried about the long-term health of my knees. I don't want a knee replacement by the time I'm 50. I'm 44 now.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want it in the next 5 years. I'd like to put that off to the extent I can. It's going to happen one day with me, I'm sure. But, you know, how can I achieve all the benefits of the gym while actually protecting sort of some of these underlying limitations I had? And the personalized programming has been a perfect fit.
Yeah, you come into the gym. We built it based or designed it based off of your mobility, your flexibility, the limitations you had, and then the goals you had. And you've seen a lot of progress. You're getting a lot stronger. And one of the things that I really enjoy about the program is you tell us like how that feels, and then we adjust the program to that. Whereas in the group class, that's kind of impossible for 200 people to tell you like, hey, I need this. Sure, we'll just change the programming for you, right? But it's real easy when the programming is specifically for you. I was on the phone with a gym owner yesterday, longtime CrossFit affiliate owner, and they have 350 members. And I was like, hey, he's thinking about making a switch of how they, I guess, present fitness, right? And I said, out of those 350 people, how many of them do you think can progress doing your group fitness program? And he said 150.
Out of 350, yeah.
Out of 350. So less than half. And so to me, like, there's a disconnect there, right? Like, are we offering the best product possible if we can't even meet the needs of half of our people? And by meeting the needs, I think there's a big difference between coming here and exercising and coming in here and progressing our bodies, right? And when it comes to progressing our bodies in terms of health and fitness and strength and all the other components that come along with that, you need something specifically for you. Right?
Well, and so probably a great example, if I do say so myself. But you have excellent coaches here, and for the group classes, and so if back squats were on the agenda for the day, let's say, okay, I'm post knee surgery, I'm back, I'm trying to get back in shape, I'm struggling with certain aspects of my knee. Hey, coach, back squat's probably not a great thing for me. Well, here, Jimmy, I think makes a lot of sense for you. You squat to a box.
Right.
That's a perfectly appropriate modification.
Yes.
But the group-wise scheduling of back squats may not be the best thing for my personal progress.
Yes.
So my programming, in order to develop quads, for instance, might involve more single leg split squats. It may involve more lunges and things of that nature mixed in with back squat.
And more of it too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And so that's probably what I needed, but you're not going to, a coach who's coaching a class of 20 really can't give you those. They can't know every person in the class and it's
impossible.
Precise modification that would be best for their progress.
If you think about it like this, if you have 60 minutes, okay, and there's 20 people in the class. Well, shit, let's say 10 people in the class. Let's go with that. Let's say you have a small gym and there's 10 people in the class, all right? You have 6 minutes to coach each person.
Yeah. The math doesn't work.
Right? Like, and think about that if you're a bigger gym. If you're a bigger gym and you have 20, 25, 30 people in a class, like your time is cut down to 2 minutes per person. And we're not even talking about explanation of workouts. So that's something to consider as well. And it doesn't mean like the group model works for a lot of people. Like we have people in our gym that the group model is perfect for. Like that's all they need. They come in, they can progress, they follow it. And then we have people that either have more specific goals, like we have a guy named Dylan, and he just wants to get massively strong, shredded, and work on his Olympic lifts. He's on personalized programming and killing it, like seeing his strength numbers go up in the Olympic lifts, leaps and bounds. And then we also have people like you, and then we have, like Linda Dublin, who's, I want to say she's 55 or 60, somewhere up in there, and she's working on feeling good. Like getting strong so that she feels good all the time. And so if you're someone who you have to modify something every single day, the group program is probably not best for you, right? And so what we're trying to do is just push our fitness towards that, like evolve fitness to a more personalized approach. So maybe we don't help everyone, and that's okay. But the people that we do help, we help in a greater way. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, and for your class, I mean, I'm usually here 5:30, 6:30, mostly 6:30. I mean, half the class, they're knocking out the programming as designed, and they're awesome. I mean, they're in awesome shape, and they're getting a great value from it. But that wasn't an option for me, and it's not an option for a lot of people as they, me, I'm 44, but I'm also 6'6", 280 pounds now. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I've done some things to put some wear on the tires,
Yeah.
and so I mean, there's been a clear tangible benefit whether you look at it subjectively in terms of the way I feel or objectively in terms of percentages and body fat and muscle mass and all these other things. I mean, I'm seeing really objective gains in performance.
So walking around every day right now on the street, how do you feel?
Great, yeah. I mean, I try to keep my wife close because she's now got to worry about that. It used to be I was the only one that had to worry about the looks because she's really pretty. Even though she doesn't come.
Make sure
she
listens to this.
Yeah. So it was always a one-way street. Like, what is she doing with him?
Right.
He must be really weird.
Now it's two ways. I like it.
Yeah. So now it's a two-way street. She's got to be careful out there.
That's awesome, y'all. All right. Jimmy, thanks for coming on today and talking about this. I appreciate it. If you're interested in personalized programming, check us out at Stacked Coaching on Instagram. Shoot us a DM. Peace out, y'all.
See you guys.